Good evening and welcome to this cloud management practical session. In this practical, we'll be talking and dealing with using virtual machine manager and setting up all the different virtual machine manager and Hyper-V components. For this practical, you require to have one server that is running the virtual machine manager as well as the application controller component, two servers for Hyper-V and as well as a domain controller. So currently I'm logged into my Hyper-V machine and I need to set up the Hyper-V role. So to install the Hyper-V role, I need to go to add roles and features, and I need to enable the Hyper-V role. Click next. For my Hyper-V, I'll be mapping my current system's Intel adapter and be creating as a virtual switch. Also, since I'll be using migration, I'll be doing live migration as well as migration of storage and virtual machines. I need to enable this option to allow this server to send and receive live migrations. If this option is not tick mark, I will not be able to perform any sort of migration over there. At the end, after we finish all of the part of the first practical, we'll be also looking at creating of a cluster and addition of different roles to the cluster. So after I have set up my Hyper-V servers with the Hyper-V role and I have installed my virtual machine manager, now time comes to where I need to connect my Hyper-V machines into my virtual machine manager. When I start virtual machine manager, give me this basic interface where VMs and services will give me all the different VMs and services on my system. Fabric will give me the entire infrastructure overview of my system. If I need to click on fabric, when I click on fabric, I have this option to add resources on top. If I expand the servers tab, I can create a separate host group. For example, if I'm in a college and I have different servers on different floors, I can create groups, host groups like ground floor servers, first floor servers, second floor servers, and so on and so forth. So let's say I'm creating a group called as I'll create a group as CM lab. Right. After I've created my group, I need to add the different servers to it. If I want to delete a group, I can right click on it, I can delete the group. I can even create one more group. And if I want, I can delete the group as well. So let's say to my current CM lab group, I will add my Hyper-V hosts. I'm using Windows Server Computer in my Active Directory. If I click on browse, there will be no runners account. So for first time I need to click create runners account. I need to give information about it. Let's say I'm giving it name as VM administrator. Username is my click on OK. It'll start validating the different credentials. I'll select the runners account. I'll click on next. Let's say I'll specify some partial computer name SC. My Hyper-V servers are known as SC Hyper-V 01 and SC Hyper-V 02. Then the system will start discovering the different computers and it'll give me an option whether do I want to add them as hosts or not. It'll do the discovery on my entire domain actor directory scheme. If you see over here, it is showing me as Hyper-V hypervisor installed for SC Hyper-V01. I'll just do it one at a time. I'll select the machine and I'll click on next. I'm adding it to the CMLab host group. Next. And finally, when I click on finish, it'll start running the job where it will add the virtual machine host. It'll actually send the agent software to the Hyper-V host machine. The agent software will start installation on the Hyper-V host machine, and once the agent software is fully installed, it'll send back different commands which will work with the virtual machine manager, which will report information like CPU usage, health, and allow me to perform different tasks like creation of virtual machines, creation of clouds, deploying a virtual machine and services. So I will let this Hyper-V server get added into my VMM, and also I will add my second Hyper-V server and get back. If you see over, I've added both of my Hyper-V servers, that is my SC Hyper-V01 and my SC Hyper-V02. If I click on a Hyper-V server, I can get different information about it. What is the amount of hard drive space it has, what is the job it has performed, how many virtual machines are running upon it. Now the next part is I need to deploy my virtual machine. For deploying a virtual machine, I need to go to the VMs and services tab, and I need to select the create virtual machine option. When I create a virtual machine option, I can use an existing template, or I can create a new virtual machine using a blank virtual hard drive. Let's say I'm giving it as a demo VM. I'm clicking on next. I'm giving it the Hyper-V capability. I'm giving it let's say RAM of 256 MB and virtual hard drive, let's say I'm giving it maybe 2 gigs of virtual hard drive space just for demonstration purposes. Click on next. Finally, because I haven't added any cloud right now, the cloud option is grayed out. It'll ask me to place the virtual machine on a host machine, and I need to select a destination. I need to select one host machine from the entire host group. So I'm selecting the host group as CMLab and I'm clicking next. Finally, now what I'll do is then start showing the different machines or my different Hyper-V servers which I can deploy this virtual machine to. It may or it may not give a proper rating to the server. The rating takes into consideration a lot of different things like how much RAM is free, how much hard drive space is free, what is CPU utilization like, and depending upon which server seems better, it'll give that server a better star based rating. If you would like to create a virtual hub for this, my suggestion would be uh, creating 4 virtual machines, 2 for the Hyper-V machines, 1 for the domain controller and 1 for the SCVMM app controller, and give around 3 gigs of RAM to each virtual machine. Currently I'm running all 4 virtual machines on a single desktop which is having 8 gigs of RAM. So during this video it may take a lot of time for some action to perform. Do know that depending upon your configuration, the action will take a much better time or will take a much lesser time to perform. Let's say I'm now selecting my SC Hyper-V01. and I'll be deploying this virtual machine to that host server. I have given it a virtual switch so I can map it to the virtual switch. If the VM network, I can map the VM to the virtual switch as well. Port classifications is, if I have when I'm creating different classification, I can give a port, maybe suppose high bandwidth, maybe low bandwidth, maybe medium bandwidth. Let's see operating system. I'll give it something less. XP professional, and I don't want to turn on the virtual machine. So when I finally click on create, the task will run for the creation of the virtual machine. And if I go back into my screen, I can see that the virtual machine has now been created, and because I didn't specify that the state should be up, the state is currently off. And if you go down and see below, I can see the RAM allocated 256 MB. I can also see that it is using one storage disk and it is on a host of SCVMM 01. The next part of the practical is migration of this virtual machine or moving on the virtual machines. When I'm looking at moving on the virtual machines, I need to right click on the machine over here and I need to select migrate virtual machine. Currently I'm on SC Hyper-V 01. When I say destination, it mentioned that current host is Hyper-V 01. So I'll be selecting SC Hyper-V 02 as my destination over there. I want to automatically place all the VHD files with the configuration. Network adapters, networks, and finally summary. I'll click on move. So then I'll start moving the virtual machine from Hyper-V 01 onto Hyper-V 02. And if I go back right now, I can see that the virtual machine has moved from SC Hyper-V 01 into SC Hyper-V 02. Similarly, I can just migrate the storage by right clicking, selecting migrate storage and specifying the location for where the storage needs to be placed, and I can move it. After I have created a virtual machine, there may come a time where I need to change the properties of the virtual machine. I can change the property of the virtual machine by double click on top of the machine, which will open up its properties. I can change the name of the virtual machine. I can even change the hardware configuration. That's our memory. I want to give it now 128 MB. I can change network adapter. I can change the availability. I can change CPU priority, and I can change CPU priority to give it low priority, high priority, and stuff. If I want to clone a virtual machine, so right now if I click on a virtual machine, I know that my RAM has been updated from 256 MB onto 128 MB. If I want to clone a virtual machine, I can right click on top of it and If I want to create a clone of virtual machine, I'll right click on top of it, I'll go to create and I'll select the clone option. When I click the clone option, it'll ask me the name of the virtual machine. And it'll ask me to configure the hardware. Then it'll ask me to select the destination. Currently it's running on Hyper-V 2. So I can dump this onto Hyper-V 1 or Hyper-V 2 again. I'm dumping it into my CM lab group. If I want, I can store this into my library. I need to select the host. So host I can specify as, let's say I'll specify it as SC Hyper-V 01. I'll specify the host as SC Hyper-V 01. I'll click on next. Let this switch be added and I'll say do not turn on virtual machine. And finally I will click on create, which will then take the demo VM virtual machine which will be on SC Hyper-V 02, create a clone of it, call the clone as demo VM clone, and this demo VM clone will then be located onto SC Hyper-V 01. And my virtual machine has been created. And if I go to see the VM listing again in VM and services, demo VM is on SC Hyper-V 02 and demo VM clone is on SC Hyper-V 01. In Hyper-V replica, it allows me to create a replica of my current virtual machine. For that, I need to go into the Hyper-V settings and then configure replication. If this is my primary server which I will be replicating from, I need to have curve tick mark and I'll select allow replication from any authenticated server. I will then go onto a secondary machine, go into its Hyper-V settings, go into replica configuration. I'll enable it, I'll enable Kerberos, and inside of the authorization storage I'll click on add and I'll specify the primary server, that is SC Hyper-V 02 over here, and I'll click on OK over here. Then I need to go into the primary server. I need to right click on the virtual machine, go to replication, and let's say I had the replication earlier done on this. I will enable the replication. Replication will go to SC Hyper-V 01. I'm using Kerberos and I'm compressing the data. This is my virtual hard drive. I want to only do save the latest recovery point, and I want to send the initial copy over the network and start the replication immediately. When I click on finish, you will see the status of the virtual machine change a bit, where it'll start doing the replication. If you see sending initial replica has been succeeded. Now when I go on the other server, my machine has now been replicated. I can right click on this machine, I can go to replication, and I can view the replication health as well. And I can see a number of times the replication has happened, if any errors were occurred, what is replication health and all. For next part of practical involves installation and using of failover clustering. To install failover clustering, I need to go to a server manager dashboard and use the add roles and features to install the failover clustering feature. click it. Failure clustering is never on the role section, it's always in the feature section. So I will go to feature section and I will tick mark failure clustering and I'll add the feature, and then I'll wait for the entire installation to proceed. After the installation of the failover clustering on the various Hyper-V hosts, you need to then start the failover cluster manager. When I start the failover cluster manager, this is the basic interface which I will get. The first task that needs to be performed is creation of a cluster. If you look under management, there is an option for creating of a cluster. When I click on the create cluster option, it'll start showing me a wizard where it'll ask me to add the various nodes of a cluster. It'll also ask me to specify an IP address. For example, I'm already having SC Hyper-V. Excellent. I'll browse SCH, check name. I'll select both my Hyper-V servers. Going to create a cluster of those Hyper-V servers. It'll start verifying the server setting, and those two servers will then come under selected servers. I'll click next. Let's say right now I do not want support from Microsoft for this cluster. I'll click next. I need to give a cluster name. Let's say I'm giving a cluster name as CM Lab Cluster. I also need to give it an IP address. Let's say I'm giving an IP address 167. So I've given a cluster name and I've given it an IP address which will be pingable across the network. So when I finally come to the confirmation stage, it'll tell me that what is my cluster name, what are nodes of the cluster, and what is the IP address. And now I'll start creation of the cluster. After the cluster has been created, I can perform tasks like I can define or manage the different roles of the cluster. For example, sometimes we may have a cluster for SQL server. I may also have a cluster on which a virtual machine may be running. So if you remember in the earlier part of this practical, we had created a virtual machine. So let's do one thing. Let's right now what we'll do is we will add we will configure the role, and we will put that virtual machine on top of the cluster. If you see right now in the summary, the cluster has 0 clustered roles and is having 2 nodes over there. So let's say I want to configure the role. I'll click on configure role. I'll click on next. Let's say my role is of a virtual machine. When I finally click on next, it'll ask me for a different virtual machine which I want to use. Let's say I want to put the demo VM of Hyper-V 02 onto this cluster. When I click finish, next, it'll now start configuring the high availability options for that virtual machine. It'll then give me a summary with different results. If I want, I can validate a cluster. Validation of a cluster will run some tests which will come back and tell you, okay, is this cluster working fine, is it problematic, is there any sort of issues with it. So let's say I'm selected the cluster configuration test and I'm clicking next. The test may pass or they may fail depending on uh, various properties. Click RFID. And I shall now finally click on finish. So this is the end of practical 1. In this practical session I haven't shown how to install the virtual machine manager, but I shall keep a link below to a site which has the entire instructions of how SCVMM should be installed. If you do like these videos, don't forget to comment and like below. Thanks.